I returned from the lake house without warning. I'd forgotten my medication. Walking into the apartment, I went numb. My daughter was on her knees in the living room. Her father-in-law held her by her hair, his voice a venomous whisper. "Now," he said, "I will teach you how a real woman is supposed to act in her husband's house." Silence. That was what I valued more than anything. I'd spent 40 years as the county's head archivist, surrounded by the quiet testimony of history, yellowed pages, birth records, wax seals. Documents don't scream. They don't beg. They simply hold the truth until someone is ready to see it. But for the last 2 years, my own home, with its high ceilings and creaky oak floors, had become a battleground. I believed patience was a virtue. When my daughter, Lena, married Julian, I made room. I gave them the master bedroom and moved into the smaller room overlooking the courtyard. I thought I was building a family. But with my son-in-law came the suffocating shadow of his father, Silas Vance. Silas didn't visit. He held inspections. "Miriam," he'd boom, not even removing his coat. "There's a draft in this hall. Unacceptable for a home-nurturing society's future." By future, he meant Julian, and of course himself. I'd nod, offer tea, and retreat. I could hear him chastising Lena for unironed napkins, for soup too bland, for wasting time on her photography. "A hobbyist," he'd spit. "A woman creates atmosphere, not clutter on a screen." And Julian, he'd sit there, eyes down, saying nothing. To breathe, I escaped to my lake house, an old A-frame among the pines. I thought my absence granted Lena peace. How wrong I was. That Thursday, I'd driven up, intending to stay the weekend. But by evening, a familiar pressure bloomed at my temples. My pills were on the hall table at home. I caught a ride back with a neighbor, staring at the blurring lights, thinking of Lena's newly silent eyes. I reached our building at dusk. Our windows blazed like an interrogation room. I climbed the stairs, fumbling for my keys, but the door was slightly ajar. A low, measured voice drifted from the living room. "You still don't understand your place." It was Silas, but the tone was new, cold, sadistic. My feet carried me forward. I stopped in the hallway shadow. The sight burned away, every soft thing left in me. On our old Persian rug, my Lena was on her knees. Silas loomed over her, her dark braids wrapped around his fist, forcing her head back. Tears streamed down her face, but she made no sound. "Repeat it," Silas whispered, a gentleness that reeked of the grave. In the corner, by the window, stood Julian. His back was to them, his shoulders trembling. He knew, and he did nothing. I was wrong," Lena whispered, her voice breaking. Silas yanked her hair. Louder, and with respect. "I was wrong. Now I'm going to teach you how a real woman is supposed to act in her husband's house, since your own mother failed." In that moment, the Miriam who avoided conflict died. The woman who believed in keeping the peace vanished, replaced by an icy clarity. I was an archivist facing a corrupted document. Hysteria would solve nothing. Proof would. I stepped back, took my phone from my pocket and raised it. The camera saw his profile, his fist in her hair, Julian's cowardly back. I tapped record. "You should be grateful we accepted you," Silas hissed. I saved the video. Now for strategy. I retreated to the front door, opened it wide, and slammed it shut with all my force. "Lena! Julian! I'm home!" I called, my voice bright and false. "Forgot my pills." A frantic shuffle erupted from the living room. When I entered, the scene had changed. Silas stood by the fireplace, adjusting his cuff. Lena was by the sofa, wiping her eyes. Julian stared out the window. "Oh, Miriam," Silas said. A benevolent mask snapped into place. "We were just discussing tradition. Lena can be so emotional." "Yes," I sighed, rubbing my temple, playing the frail old woman. "She's always been sensitive." I saw his shoulders relax. He saw no threat, only a fool. He left soon after, trailing the smell of expensive cologne in fear. I didn't sleep. I lay in the dark, listening to Lena's silence through the wall. To slay a dragon, you need to find the soft underbelly. I needed a weapon. At dawn, I went to the archives. Not to the public sections, but to the sealed private collections. Years ago, Silas's wife, Clara, my dear friend, had given me a box as she lay dying. "Hide this," she'd whispered. "He'll destroy it. Open it only in dire need." I found the box on shelf 17, dusted it off, and untied the strings. Inside were letters in Clara's hand, and beneath them, a medical registry from a shuttered clinic. I scanned the documents. My heart beat a steady, cold rhythm. It was a bomb. The medical record was for Silas. Diagnosis, azoospermia. Absolute sterility, resulting from childhood mumps. Beneath it was a forged birth certificate for Julian and a letter from Clara. We took a boy from an orphanage. Cornelius arranged everything. He hates him, Miriam. He looks at him and sees proof of his own failure. Julian was not his son. The entire dynasty, the pride of blood, was a lie built to hide a man's shame. I took the papers. At home I called Silas. My voice was fawning. Cornelius, about your campaign. I have some savings. Perhaps I could contribute. For family solidarity. Greed was his chink in the armor. He agreed to come for tea. He arrived, expecting a donation. He sat, ate my cake, and held forth on his lineage. I showed him a harmless stack of Clara's old letters about gardening. Sentimental trash, he sneered. Burn it. Of course, I murmured. As he left, he handed me a list for a photo shoot he was commandeering my home for. New drapes. Rearrange the furniture. Have Lena dressed properly. Tuesday. The door closed. I burned his list in the kitchen sink. Tuesday was too small. I needed a larger stage. I called him back. The Veterans Council wishes to congratulate you, I lied. A small dinner. Saturday. Here. His vanity swelled. Of course. The week was a quiet whirlwind. I visited gossips, accidentally mentioning inconsistencies in the Vance family history. I left brochures about financial abuse and divorce law where Julian would see them. I went to the bank and, with an old friend's help, saw the catastrophic loans Silas had forced Lena to take, money funneled into pyramid schemes. Saturday arrived. The guests, the true old guard of the city, were seated. Silas held court, boasting of his officer grandfather. Mrs. Allerton, the sharp-tongued widow, asked, "Which cavalry regiment?" "I've been reviewing the archives." He flustered, gave a vague answer. The tension thickened. When he barked at Lena for a spilled glass of wine, his hand twitched up. It was the reflex of a tyrant. I stood. "No," I said. The room stilled. "You dare," he hissed. "This isn't your family, Silas. And this isn't your money." I threw the bank statements onto the table. 75,000 in loans you stole from her. He paled, denied it. I cut him off. "You're bankrupt. A parasite." He grabbed a steak knife. "I'll kill you." "Do it," I said, not moving. "Show them all who you really are." He lowered the knife, wheezing about family. I picked up the second folder. "You love to talk about blood, Silas. About dynasty." I pulled out the medical chart. He recognized it. Animal terror filled his eyes. "What is that?" Julian asked, his voice rough. "It's why he hates you, Julian." I turned to my son-in-law. "He is not your father. You were adopted. He is sterile. Your entire life has been a punishment for his lie." The silence was absolute. Julian looked at Silas, then at Lena, who stepped protectively to his side. The confusion on his face hardened into a terrible, liberating understanding. "Get out," I said to Silas. "Never come near my children again." He raged, threatened, but the disgust in the room was a wall. He fled. Later, he tried to fight back, threatening calls, a ridiculous lawsuit for reimbursement. But we held firm. Elroy finally faced him alone and returned calm. "I told him to put on his own coat," he said, "and I left." 3 months later, the air in our home is new. Light tulle replaces heavy drapes. The smell is of linseed oil and fresh paint from Lena's revived canvases. Julian lives nearby, learning to be his own man. They date like teenagers, free. I am at the lake house. A letter came, with a blurred news clipping from a distant northern town. It showed the opening of a minor municipal office. In the background, in a cheap suit, was Silas. The caption read, "Junior Record Specialist." He had fled to the edge of the world and become what he always was beneath the bluster, a small man with papers. I struck a match and burned the clipping. The ash fell into the soil where I was planting new roses. Peace roses. Resilient. I took a sip of tea, strong and sweet. The taste of silence. The taste of peace, finally won. I am the keeper of this fortress, and its gates are now open only for light. If you like this story, kindly like this video and leave a comment. Also, don't forget to subscribe our channel for more interesting stories. See you in the next video.